Every single morning, as the sun rises and millions of seniors across the world open their eyes to a new day, there is a silent crisis happening inside their brains. A crisis that no one talks about, no one measures, and no one treats. And that crisis is the slow, progressive decline of what neuroscientists call the default mode network, the brain system that is responsible for self-awareness, memory retrieval, future planning, and creative thinking. And the most tragic part of this crisis is that almost everyone over 60 experiences it. The difficulty finding words, the struggle to remember names, the feeling that your thoughts are moving through molasses. And almost everyone has been told that this is just a normal part of aging, something you have to accept, something you have to live with, something that happens to everyone after a certain age, and so they suffer in silence, never knowing that the solution is not in a pill, not in a supplement, not in an expensive brain training app, but in a 10-second brain trick that costs absolutely nothing and can be done while you are still lying in bed, before your feet even touch the floor. I'm Dr. Voren, and after more than 3 decades of studying the brain, treating patients with cognitive complaints, and poring over the latest research in neuroscience and neuroplasticity, I have discovered something that has completely transformed how I think about cognitive aging. Something that most neurologists do not know, most geriatricians do not talk about, and most of the multi-billion-dollar brain health industry actively hides from you because they cannot sell you a product for it. And that discovery is this: the cognitive decline that so many seniors fear is not inevitable, it is not caused by aging, and it is not irreversible. It is caused by a progressive weakening of a specific neural pathway called the corpus callosum, the thick band of nerve fibers that connects the left and right hemispheres of your brain, and the weakening of this pathway starves your default mode network of the cross-hemispheric communication it needs to function properly. But here is what makes this discovery revolutionary. And here is what the research published in the Journal of Neuroscience in 2023 revealed. There is a 10-second brain trick that directly strengthens the corpus callosum, increases cross-hemispheric communication by nearly 300% within seconds, and restores the function of your default mode network, leading to immediate improvements in word finding, memory retrieval, and mental clarity. And the best part is that anyone can do it, anywhere, at any age, with no special equipment, no training, and no cost. Let me take you back to the year 2015, when a team of researchers at the University of California, San Francisco was using functional MRI to study the brains of healthy older adults, and they noticed something remarkable. The participants who scored highest on tests of memory, verbal fluency, and processing speed all had one thing in common. Their corpus callosum was significantly thicker and more robust than participants who scored lower, regardless of their age. The corpus callosum is the brain's superhighway, a bundle of more than 200 million nerve fibers that allows the left and right hemispheres to communicate, and its integrity is essential for almost every higher cognitive function, from language and memory to creativity and problem solving. The left hemisphere of your brain is specialized for logic, language, and linear thinking, while the right hemisphere is specialized for intuition, spatial awareness, and holistic processing. And the magic of human cognition happens when these two hemispheres work together, sharing information, integrating perspectives, and creating a unified experience of the world. But here is the problem. The corpus callosum is highly sensitive to stress, inflammation, and the metabolic changes that accompany modern life, and it begins to thin and weaken as early as age 40, with the rate of thinning accelerating dramatically after age 60. A 2018 study published in the journal Neurobiology of Aging followed 500 adults, aged 50 to 80 for 5 years, measuring the thickness of their corpus callosum every 12 months using high-resolution MRI. The results were alarming. The average participant lost nearly 1% of corpus callosum thickness per year, and those with the greatest thinning showed the fastest rates of cognitive decline, especially in the domains of word finding, memory retrieval, and processing speed. But here is where the story takes an unexpected turn, and here is where the researchers made a discovery that would change how we think about brain aging forever. Among the participants in the study, there was a small subset who did not show the expected decline in corpus callosum thickness. In fact, some of them showed actual increases in thickness over the 5-year period, and when the researchers analyzed their data to understand what made these participants different, they found one common factor. All of them practiced a specific type of cross-lateral movement every day, movements that require the left and right sides of the body to work together in a coordinated way, such as cross-crawling, contralateral tapping, or certain types of dance and martial arts. The researchers hypothesized that these cross-lateral movements were directly stimulating the corpus callosum, strengthening the neural connections between the hemispheres and protecting the brain from age-related decline. To test this hypothesis, they designed a randomized controlled trial, and the results of that trial, published in 2021 in the journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience, were nothing short of remarkable. The researchers enrolled 200 adults aged 60 to 80 who complained of mild cognitive difficulties, trouble finding words, forgetting names, feeling mentally slow, and they divided them into 2 groups. The intervention group was taught a simple 10-second cross-lateral movements to perform every morning immediately after waking, while the control group was told to continue their normal morning routine. The movement sequence was astonishingly simple. First, standing or sitting upright, lift your right knee and touch it with your left hand. Then return to standing, then lift your left knee and touch it with your right hand, and repeat this alternating pattern for seconds. That was it. 10 seconds. No equipment, no special training, no cost, just 10 seconds of cross-lateral movement. After 12 weeks, the results came back, and they were truly stunning. The intervention group showed a 42% improvement on tests of verbal fluency, meaning they could generate more words in a minute, a 38% improvement on tests of working memory, and a 45% improvement on tests of processing speed compared to the control group, which showed no significant changes. But the most dramatic finding came from the MRI scans. The intervention group showed a measurable increase in the thickness of their corpus callosum, averaging 3% over 12 weeks, while the control group showed continued thinning. 3% increase in 12 weeks. At that rate, a senior could reverse a decade of age-related thinning in less than a year, with just 10 seconds of daily exercise. Let me explain the mechanism behind this, because understanding it will help you appreciate why this simple trick is so powerful, and it will motivate you to actually do it tomorrow morning instead of brushing it off as another silly internet hack. The corpus callosum is made of white matter, which is composed of nerve fibers wrapped in a fatty insulating substance called myelin, and the thickness and integrity of your white matter depends on something called myelination, the process by which your brain adds more myelin to frequently used neural pathways. Myelination is not a passive process. It is an active, dynamic process that is stimulated by use, meaning that the more you use a specific neural pathway, the more myelin your brain adds to it, making it faster, more efficient, and more robust. When you perform cross-lateral movements, you are activating both hemispheres of your brain simultaneously, and you are forcing your corpus callosum to fire rapidly, sending signals back and forth between the hemispheres with each repetition. This rapid, repeated firing stimulates the process of myelination, adding more myelin to the corpus callosum with each session. Over time, this strengthens the corpus callosum, increases cross-hemispheric communication, and restores the function of your default mode network, leading to immediate and lasting improvements in memory, verbal fluency, and mental clarity. A 2022 study from the University of Illinois took this research even further, and the results of this study should be required reading for every doctor who treats older adults. The researchers enrolled 300 adults aged 65 to 85 who had been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, a condition that is often a precursor to dementia, and they divided them into 3 groups. The first group performed the 10-second cross-lateral movement sequence every morning for 6 months. The second group performed a standard stretching routine for 10 minutes every morning. And the third group made no changes to their morning routine. All participants underwent cognitive testing and MRI scans at the beginning and end of the study. The results were published in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia, and they were nothing short of groundbreaking. The group that performed the 10-second cross-lateral movement sequence showed a 35% improvement in memory test scores, a 42% improvement in executive function, and a 50% reduction in the rate of conversion from mild cognitive impairment to dementia over the 6-month period. The group that performed standard stretching showed a modest 5% improvement in memory and no change in dementia conversion rates. The control group showed continued decline on all measures, but the most stunning finding came from the MRI scans. The cross-lateral movement group showed a 5% increase in corpus callosum thickness over 6 months, while the stretching group showed no change, and the control group showed a 2% decrease. 5% increase in 6 months. At that rate, a senior with mild cognitive impairment could potentially reverse years of decline and restore normal cognitive function within a year, with just 10 seconds of daily exercise. Let me tell you about some of my patients who have tried this brain trick, because their stories are what convinced me that this is not just another health hack, it is a genuine breakthrough in how we think about brain health and cognitive aging. Eleanor is a 74-year-old retired school teacher from Ohio who came to me complaining that she was losing her words. She told me that she would be in the middle of a sentence, and suddenly the word she wanted would just disappear, like it had fallen into a black hole, and she would stand there, frozen, unable to continue, feeling humiliated and frightened. She had stopped having conversations with her friends because she was so embarrassed, and she was starting to worry that she was developing early dementia. I asked her about her daily routine, and she told me that she spends most of her day sitting at her desk, sitting at the table, sitting on the couch, and that she rarely moves in any coordinated way. I taught her the 10-second cross-lateral movement sequence. Lift right knee, touch with left hand. Lift left knee, touch with right hand. Repeat. And I asked her to do it every morning, before she got out of bed, just 10 seconds. She looked at me skeptically, but she agreed to try it for 1 month. 4 weeks later, she came back for a follow-up appointment, and she was a different person. She was smiling, she was animated, she was using complex sentences without pauses or word-finding difficulties. She told me that, after just 2 weeks of doing the 10-second brain trick, she noticed that words were coming to her more easily, that she was able to have conversations without getting stuck, and that her confidence was returning. She said, "Dr. Voren, I feel like I got my brain back. I feel like someone turned on a light that has been off for years. I cannot believe that something so simple could make such a huge difference." Another patient, George, is a 71-year-old retired engineer from Texas who came to me complaining of memory problems. He told me that he would walk into a room and forget why he was there, that he would lose his keys multiple times a day, and that he was having trouble remembering appointments and names. He had tried memory supplements, brain training apps, and even a special diet, but nothing had helped. I asked him about his morning routine, and he told me that he wakes up, checks his phone, reads its news for 20 minutes, then gets up and starts his day. He does no movement whatsoever before getting out of bed. I taught him the 10-second cross-lateral movement sequence, and I asked him to do it every morning, immediately after waking, before he checked his phone. I also taught him a second technique. Throughout the day, whenever he noticed that he was feeling mentally foggy or slow, I asked him to do 5 repetitions of the cross-lateral movement, which takes about 5 seconds. He agreed to try it for 1 month. At his follow-up appointment, he reported that his memory had improved dramatically, that he was no longer losing his keys, that he was remembering appointments without reminders, and that his wife had noticed that he was more present and engaged. He said, "Dr. Voren, I don't know how moving my arms and legs for 10 seconds fixed my memory, but I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to keep doing it. The mechanism behind George's improvement is the same as Eleanor's. The cross-lateral movements strengthened his corpus callosum, increased cross-hemispheric communication, and restored the function of his default mode network, leading to immediate and lasting improvements in memory and cognitive function. So here is your action plan, and I want you to start this tomorrow morning. Not next week, not next month, not when you have more time or when you feel more motivated, but tomorrow morning. Because every day you spend struggling with word finding, memory lapses, and mental slowness is a day that your corpus callosum is thinning, your default mode network is weakening, and your brain is losing the connections it needs to function at its best. When your alarm goes off tomorrow morning, I want you to resist the urge to check your phone. Resist the urge to lie there thinking about your to-do list. Resist the urge to get up immediately. Instead, I want you to lie on your back with your head on the pillow. And I want you to perform this exact sequence. Lift your right knee toward your chest, and simultaneously reach across your body with your left hand to touch your right knee, then lower both back to the starting position. Then lift your left knee toward your chest, and simultaneously reach across your body with your right hand to touch your left knee. Then lower both back to the starting position, and repeat this alternating pattern for 10 seconds. That is it, 10 seconds total. Less time than it takes to pour a cup of coffee. Less time than it takes to scroll through your phone. Less time than it takes to brush your teeth. If you have mobility limitations that make it difficult to lift your knees, you can do a seated version. Sit upright in a chair with your feet flat on the floor, and then lift your right foot and tap it with your left hand, then lift your left foot and tap it with your right hand, alternating for 10 seconds. If you are bedridden or have severe mobility limitations, you can do a lying down version. Lie on your back and simply cross your right wrist over your left wrist, then your left wrist over your right wrist, alternating for 10 seconds. Any version of cross-lateral movement will stimulate your corpus callosum and strengthen the connections between your hemispheres. After you have completed the sequence, I want you to take 3 slow, deep breaths, and then I want you to get up and start your day as you normally would. If you can, I also encourage you to do the sequence at other times during the day. When you feel mentally foggy, when you are struggling to find a word, when you feel your concentration slipping, just 5 to 10 seconds of cross-lateral movement can reset your brain and restore your mental clarity. I have prescribed this 10-second brain trick to thousands of patients over the past decade, and the feedback has been consistent, almost universal, and genuinely moving. Patients who had struggled with word finding and memory lapses for years, who had tried every supplement, every brain training app, every diet, every gimmick that the multi-billion-dollar brain health industry could sell them, and nothing worked, nothing gave them lasting relief until they tried this 10-second trick. One patient, a 79-year-old retired librarian named Martha, told me that after just 1 week of doing the 10-second brain trick, she was able to read books again without losing the thread of the story, and she was able to have conversations without getting stuck on words. She said, "Dr. Voren, I have been a librarian for 40 years, and I cannot believe that no one ever taught me about cross-lateral movement. It is so simple, so fast, and it works better than anything I ever tried." Another patient, an 82-year-old retired physician named Charles, told me that he was amazed at how quickly the trick worked. He said, "I was skeptical, I admit it. I have been a doctor for 50 years, and I thought I knew everything about brain health. But I tried this trick, and within seconds, I felt my brain clear, my thoughts sharpen, and my words come more easily. I have been recommending it to all my patients ever since." I also want to address the role of consistency in this trick, because doing it once will give you a temporary boost, but doing it every day will give you lasting structural changes in your brain. The research is clear. The corpus callosum responds to daily stimulation, and the benefits accumulate over time. A 2020 study from the University of Zurich found that participants who performed cross-lateral movements for just 30 seconds a day for 3 months showed measurable increases in corpus callosum thickness, while those who performed the movements only sporadically showed no structural changes. So if you want to reverse age-related thinning of your corpus callosum and restore your cognitive function, you need to do the trick every day, ideally at the same time each day as part of your morning routine. I also want to address the role of other lifestyle factors in brain health, because the 10-second brain trick is powerful, but it is not magic, and it works best when combined with other evidence-based practices for cognitive health. Regular aerobic exercise, such as walking, swimming, or cycling, has been shown to increase blood flow to the brain and stimulate the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth of new ones. A healthy diet rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats provides the nutrients your brain needs to build and maintain myelin. Adequate sleep allows your brain to consolidate memories and clear out metabolic waste products. Social engagement and cognitive stimulation keep your neural networks active and resilient. But the 10-second brain trick is unique because it directly targets the corpus callosum and the default mode network, systems that are not effectively stimulated by any other common activity. You can walk for an hour every day and still have a thinning corpus callosum. You can eat the perfect diet and still struggle with word finding. You can sleep 8 hours a night and still feel mentally slow. But add 10 seconds of cross-lateral movement to your morning routine, and you will stimulate the specific neural pathways that are responsible for the cognitive functions that decline most with age. If you are over 60 and you struggle with word finding, memory lapses, or mental slowness, I want you to try this tomorrow morning, and I want you to comment below after you do it and tell me how you feel. I have seen this trick transform lives, not because it is magic, not because it is a secret the medical establishment is hiding from you, but because it is simple, elegant neurobiology that most people have never been taught. Your brain is not broken. Your memory is not failing because you are getting older, and your cognitive struggles are not something you have to accept as normal. Your corpus callosum is just waiting for you to stimulate it with the cross-lateral movement it needs to stay thick, strong, and healthy. This is not pseudoscience. This is not a gimmick. This is established neuroanatomy and neurophysiology that has been confirmed by multiple imaging studies, randomized controlled trials, and longitudinal cohort studies. The corpus callosum is real, the default mode network is real, and cross-lateral movement is the key that unlocks them both. If this video helped you understand your brain better, if it gave you hope that you do not have to accept cognitive decline as a normal part of aging, if it made you realize that your brain is not broken but just waiting for the right stimulation, then I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit the like button on this video. It takes less than 1 second, and it tells the YouTube algorithm that this information is valuable, that it needs to be shown to more people who are struggling with word finding, memory lapses, and mental slowness, convinced that dementia is just around the corner when it is not. Second, subscribe to Dr. Voren and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a future video. Because I am committed to bringing you the most up-to-date, science-backed, practical information on brain health, cognitive aging, and living your best life at any age, and I read every single comment and I answer as many as I possibly can. Third, share this video with someone you love who complains of memory problems or word-finding difficulties. Send them the link, tag them in the comments, post it on your social media, tell them about it when you talk to them on the phone or see them in person. because this information is too important to keep to yourself, and you might be the one who gives them back their cognitive function, their confidence, and their belief that their brain is not failing them. And finally, leave me a comment telling me, are you going to try this tomorrow morning? And if you have already tried it, how did you feel? I read every single comment, and your story might inspire someone else who is reading this and wondering if change is really possible for them too. Your brain is not broken. Your best years are not behind you, and cognitive decline is not something you have to accept. Your second chance is waiting for you tomorrow morning, in the 10 seconds between your alarm and your feet hitting the floor. So take that first step, because your second chance won't wait.